Welcome to the Growth Shift. I'm David Zilstra. Here's what I've learned after years in business. Every leader who's built something meaningful has a story, but the moment they had to shift, when failure forced innovation, when change became opportunity, when they chose growth over comfort. On this show, we dive into those pivotal moments, the setbacks that became breakthroughs, the strategic shifts that accelerated growth, and the frameworks that turn obstacles into opportunities. Because here's the truth. In a world where change is the only constant, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who've learned to shift strategically through it. So whether you're facing your own pivot point or just want to learn from someone who's been there, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Joining us today is Dr. Jackie Cawley, an osteopathic family physician turned healthcare executive who discovered her true calling through a life-altering accident. After 25 years climbing the corporate ladder, only to hit self-imposed glass ceilings, Jackie broke her neck in a freak accident and says it was one of the best things that ever happened to her. Now, she's the founder of the Deleane Institute for Growth and Wellness, helping professionals break through their own barriers before spending decades creating them. Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here today.
Oh, it is a pleasure to have you. Now, you went from being an osteopathic family physician to a healthcare executive overseeing population health for a major healthcare system. That's quite a journey.
Yeah.
Walk me through how you made that transition and what drove you toward the executive side of healthcare.
It's a great question. I didn't expect to be a leader. I was always focused on just being a healer. I had wanted to be a physician since ever I can remember, 3-4 years old. And so when an opportunity arose to be a medical director for a practice, I said, why not? I could help to improve things. I've got good ideas. Why not? Even if I've only been in practice for 2 years, I could do this. So started to move into leadership positions and started to really define myself as a healer, a teacher, and a leader, and looking for opportunities to do all of those things. And what's interesting is that when you're working, I love working with patients. It's so gratifying to have that one-on-one relationship with a patient. And as a leader in population health, for example, I can create programs and ways of transforming care delivery that can impact hundreds of thousands or millions of people. And so I began to realize that there was so much potential there to have an impact in healthcare that was different than just my interactions with patients, which I never gave up. I continued to do that through most of my career until I had to really just focus on the administrative healthcare executive things for corporate healthcare and saw that there were limitations there. It was frustrating because we would try all these new ways of doing things, and as much as we would try new things, status quo kind of always snuck back in. But really happy with the changes that I was able to impact and the positive ways of improving health and wellness for populations and focusing on prevention and not just the acute illness with an individual who has a trauma or whatever, but really working with populations in the community to try to keep them as healthy and as well as possible and out of the hospital if possible.
So it sounds like initially, you got into healthcare because you wanted to have an impact on health, on the population,
Yes.
have an influence on that. And pretty early in your career, you had the opportunity to make a change that would allow you to have an impact in a greater way, although perhaps
Right.
not initially the way that you envisioned it. But it sounds like also through that change, there were challenges that arose that you didn't initially foresee, right? You got a little too good at your job, if I understand it right.
Yes, I did. It's a common problem that people have, and it keeps them, I think, sometimes from progressing in their career, particularly if you stay within the same organization for a long period of time. I'm recovering, I call it recovering people pleaser perfectionist. And so would do my best to make sure I was doing a really good job. And in fact, I had, one of my bosses, a CEO, called me his utility player because he could pretty much put me anywhere on any problem in the organization and I would tackle it. For example, I'm a family physician and suddenly I'm overseeing the IT department for a healthcare organization, being large electronic medical record implementations for the organization. I had never seen that coming, but I did a really good job of it. And I was told, we just need you a year or so. 7 years later, I'm still there doing my really good job. Not that we all have opportunities for learning and growth, but I was doing a good job. And so when opportunities came within the health system to have a different position that would take me even higher in the organization, I was told, oh, no, we need you here on this project for another year, or you're in the middle of this. We really need you to stay here. And I recognized later, after my accident, that I'd had really created my own internal glass ceiling by wanting to please other people and doing that I wasn't always taking care of what I needed professionally with what I wanted to do from a growth perspective. That
Caught
was
in that
eye-opening.
cycle of wanting perhaps the recognition for the work that you were doing, knowing you were having an impact, knowing you were helping people, but
Yeah,
also being stuck, right? Wanting to live true to who you were contribution wise. And
right.
I guess you probably felt a little bit guilty as well, thinking, "Oh no, I want to do something different, but all these people say they're relying and depending on me, so I need to stay
Right.
where I am for their sake, less mine."
Right. And part of it's ego too, right? When someone's saying, "Oh, you're doing such a good job." It's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll just keep doing this for a while." Even though I was always looking at that sort of that next place that I wanted to go, knowing that I had more to offer, that there was more potential that I could reach.
Now, Jackie, you mentioned your accident. Right? You
Yeah.
said that breaking your neck was, one of the greatest things that ever happened to you. I don't think many people ever think they're going to say that in their lifetime. It's a pretty
It's
profound statement.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but it's true. I'd been in healthcare and I was an executive for a long time. I'd done really cool things and I was proud of my career and everything was going great. And then when I had what's called a syncopal episode, I fainted and I did not have any awareness of it. I got up and all of a sudden I was down on the ground, hit my head, broke my neck, had to get transferred to the state trauma center, had to have 2 surgeries. I was in the hospital for 4 or 5 days. I had a cervical collar. I was out of work. I mean, I was pretty incapacitated for a good 6 weeks. Just simple things like doing your hair, or being able to take a shower. All those things were difficulties for me for a period of time. And it gave me the opportunity I had to take time. I couldn't do anything, which is very hard for me. I'm a doer. I'm always active. My husband calls me the Energizer Bunny. And so for me to have to sit in a chair or lay in a bed all day long with a cervical collar on was killing me. But it gave me time to reflect. And I would say that it was the biggest opportunity for personal and spiritual growth that I'd ever had in my life. And it really helped me to recognize what was most essential or important to me and what I wanted to do with my life. And it helped me to understand that I was going to have to make some huge changes in my life. And I was planning on looking to retire a little bit early and do other things. And I had an idea. I wanted to open a company. I wanted to write a book. I had all these great ideas. But I went back to work. And then 2 months later, with a new leadership group that came in from the executive side, my position was eliminated. And it was one of those things where like, okay, I've had this accident. Now my position's eliminated. I was thinking I needed to do something different. This is the perfect opportunity for me to do that because it gave me a great severance package. But my ego was pretty bruised at that point. And so once I got over my ego, I recognized the opportunity for myself and went forward and actually wrote a book and published it this last year. And I opened a company and started coaching and guiding other people and doing blogs and just working with clients on their personal and professional development goals, and started holding events. And that was, I mean, it's been an incredible journey. I'm learning so much, but yes, that fall was a big turning point for me and just a huge growth opportunity.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I know we've all heard it before, but often we don't really recognize and understand truly what it means until it happens, but you don't realize what you have until it's taken away, especially with health, right? I've never
Right.
broken my neck. I've had some injuries that have, had me on the couch and such for a little while, but it sounds like a lot changed with that, right? Maybe it only almost reworked the wiring within your brain. I mean, if we take a step back, Jackie, you fainted. You didn't even know what was happening until you woke up in the hospital. Take us back to the moment when you woke up, right? Because you didn't know that you'd be losing your job or the position would be eliminated, let's say. What went through your mind, about your career and even your life up to that point?
Yeah, so when I fainted, what's odd is like as soon as I hit the floor, I woke up and I mean there was just blood all over the place. I don't want to get gory, but there was just blood all over the place. My husband is freaking out. He's calling people to help us. He's trying to staunch the blood. I didn't know that I broke my neck. I didn't think that I did. We got to the hospital as quickly as possible, and at that point, they came in and said, "We just did this study, and you've got multiple fractures. We're going to have to immobilize you. We'll send you to the trauma center." And meanwhile, it just seems so surreal when all that's happening. And as a physician, I was used to healthcare. I knew rationally what was going on, but emotionally, I had never prepared myself for anything like this. I've always been a very healthy person. And, David, I think you said, like, what was going through your mind from a perspective, from a professional perspective. All I could think at the time was, oh, I got to get back to work. I had all these meetings. In fact, the day after my accident, I was supposed to do a Zoom presentation for a large nursing IT group down south. And I had to call him up and say, "I'm sorry, I just broke my neck. I can't do this today for you." But there was a part of me saying, "Oh, I have to get back to work. I got to talk to my team. I need to get on Zoom meetings, etc." And then there was this other part of me that said, "You're being crazy right now. You have to take care of yourself. Your health is most important." And my family was just, my children were terrified of what it could have happened, because I could have been paralyzed. I could have died, with fracturing my neck. So my family was just like, "Why are you even thinking about work?" And at that point, they really did hit me that I have to let that go. I have to let my team go. They've got it. I had developed them. They were smart people. And it was just time to take care of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can only imagine that sort of like inner chaos or battle that was going on with you, trying to live true to who you lived to be, right? You mentioned you were a people pleaser. You wanted to keep doing what you were doing, but also at the same time, finally, I think, fully fighting against that and realizing, no, like I need to come first. What I want to live for comes first. You mentioned that, with what you're doing at the Deleane Institute, you work with other professionals, primarily women, who are in that position that you were in, right? Stuck with this glass ceiling, maybe being people pleasers, not actually putting themselves first. What sort of lesson did you learn from this experience of breaking your neck and going through that inner conflict of sort that, now you bring to your clients and you help them? How do you help them see this as well?
I think that allowed me to see that I had ceded my power to others at points in my life because I was trying to please people, right? And do a great job and be perfect. And I recognized that all I had to be was myself. And so I think I really found my voice and started to understand at that point that I was good enough just as I was. And I didn't have to worry about self-doubt or fear of making somebody unhappy, that I could speak my truth and be myself and really put myself out there as me, and everything was going to be okay. And I recognized that in myself, if I had known that when I was 30, 40 years old, 50 years old, things might have been different for myself, because I might have pushed harder to get to the points that I wanted to get within the same organization that I was in, and to run a healthcare organization the way that I had maybe envisioned for myself. And I also realized that a lot of other women, people in general, tend to not really step into their power. They don't fully grasp the fact that they can just be themselves and let go of some of that self-doubt, that whole imposter syndrome, right? We all get it at times, depending on what's going on, that you don't have to do that. You don't have to allow fear to keep you from moving forward and grabbing potential and living the visions for yourself that you want to. So I think that was a big thing for me, to really learn to speak my truth. And not everybody is always happy about that, and that's okay.
So you've been in a leadership role for a long time, right? You hit a self-imposed glass ceiling. You were really good at what you were doing, obviously, which is, I'm sure, one of the reasons, or one of the primary reasons, that contributed to you being stuck in this cycle, right? But it sounds like fear is a major component of that as well, right? Even when you know you deserve more, you can do more, you've earned more, right? Do you think that a lot of the women that you work with, or just a lot of the professionals in general you work with, maybe also keep themselves stuck in that position out of fear, or is something else that contributes to that more?
So I think fear is part of it. I think people are hardwired to humans to be connected and accepted. And it's one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You want to be accepted. And so I think people will do things sometimes for others in order to be accepted, and then not do the things that might be in their best interest. I know that was one of the things that I did, is like, I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be and part of it probably comes just from my childhood and all, but wanted to be perfect because that way everything is in control, people are happy, you feel safe. So I think you get kind of sucked into that a little bit, especially, I would say that especially for women, it's like it's built into our DNA a little bit that we have to be accepted and part of the community, because in the past our ancestors, if they didn't do that, you wouldn't eat, you wouldn't survive, you wouldn't be accepted by the tribe. So I think that there's a tendency sometimes to allow for those in power or authority, that we kind of give up our power to them a little bit, and we'll stay quiet. We won't be as bold. Maybe we'll be a little bit more quiet. Don't rock the boat as much, and that way things will go our way and things will be okay. And I think that it's okay to rock the boat if you need to rock the boat. But I think a lot of times people hold back from that because of fear or shame or a sense that they might not be accepted. And I think that holds people back.
Yeah, I mean, those prehistoric animalistic instincts and fears, I think, are things that we all battle with. I mean, in today's age, things are moving so fast as well with society that it's almost a challenge, a battle internally just to keep up and fight against those things, even when we feel and know that it's better. That's definitely some great insight, definitely some great food for thought, I think, for the audience. Now, Jackie, if we shift gears a little bit and look at what you're doing right now, how it is you help people, who you help, how it is you attract them, and the impact that you have. I mean, with the Deleane Institute, as I understand it, you're serving a couple of distinct groups, right? Younger professionals as well, who are starting out on this journey, or younger professionals as well as people who maybe are in a similar position to the position you were in just a few years ago. How do you currently identify and connect with these clients on opposite sides?
So you're right. So my first demographic was, hey, what if I can help people like me go much faster through that development process and not have to make the same mistakes that I did, and learn a little bit more quickly so that they can feel empowered and they can grasp their full potential a little bit more quickly and build self-awareness and build confidence and a sense that they can do more and overcome challenges, etc., and be very successful with that. So that was one group that I really went after initially, using a lot of tools and technology that are at my disposal with my marketing team to try to really understand, like, what does that demographic want? What do they need? How do they like to receive the information? So I started writing blogs, doing some events that would sort of resonate with folks in that age group. And I had some success with that, and also found that people were coming to me who were more sort of like me. They were a little later in their career, and they were in a transition period or feeling a little bit stuck and not knowing where they wanted to go next. They had done all the things that they thought they were supposed to do, and had a career path, etc., and then suddenly have time on their hands or a transitional change because a job's eliminated, they go through a divorce, whatever it happens to be, and they're kind of in a place where they don't know where they want to go next. So they just need some help understanding what's most important to them and how to sort of create a vision and a roadmap for moving forward in the future. So it seems like there's been these sort of two groups that I've been most resonating with. And I would say that, it's really the tools and technology that's out there that can help you understand what are these groups looking for? How do they want to receive information? What is the kind of information that they're looking for through using search engine optimization and doing some market analyses and doing surveys with folks and working one-on-one, and then just kind of the comments and things that I get from either an event or a YouTube video that I'm putting out there, seeing what people are gravitating to.
So it sounds like you pay a lot of attention to what people are showing you they value and what they need, which of course any smart business owner should do. But I think sometimes people try and solve for those future problems that they think their clients will have, right? Mm-hmm. Or their audience anyways. But if I understand you correctly, it sounds like you're almost serving like two groups of women, one in the earlier stages of development who perhaps haven't hit those glass ceilings or encountered that or experienced it, but they know they want to go far. And then you're working with women as well who are at those pivot points in their life, the times of change, when something has happened to put them in a position where they're reevaluating what it is they really want. Is there any crossover, or is there any focus on the middle group as well? Because, I mean, if I just try and relate to what I understand of your experience, right, you were a people pleaser, you hit a glass ceiling, you were there for a while, but the ego also fed that as well a little bit, right? Perhaps
Yes.
you weren't really looking for a change or identifying that you wanted a change until you had an impactful moment. Would you say that, there's a large middle group there as well who maybe are in that position, but they haven't recognized it and they don't actually know what it is that they need or want?
I think that is a really good point, David. I think that there is that middle group as well. It's interesting because when you look at, I have an MBA, I've done business, for a long time. When you look at a lot of business strategy, they're saying focus, look at your demographic, try to build your brand, get your brand awareness, blah blah blah. The whole spiel. It's pretty, pretty standardized out there. And so that's what I was doing. But now, to your point, like what I'm finding is that it's not just about women; it's about people, and people don't always know what they don't know until they get to a point where all of a sudden they have to make a change because their job's eliminated. They get laid off because they're, for whatever reason. They have to move across country. There's a death in the family. There's a pandemic. You have to shift. All these things can happen. And so I do think that there are a lot of people that are out there that just get stuck in this automatic rut, like go to work every day and you do what you're supposed to do and you're supposed to climb the corporate ladder or do a good job on your performance and then you'll get the next prize, etc. And then it doesn't happen for people. And I think what I see I'm seeing this in a lot of people right now and it's sort of the whole spectrum of the different groups that are out there in the workforce, people losing sort of a sense of purpose or meaning in their life and feeling that there's got to be something more. So it's sort of that group, I think, that also feels stuck but in a different way. It's just they know something's not right. They don't know exactly what it is. They're trying to take care of their parents, their kids, the job, the house, the dog, whatever. And they're not spending time on themselves. And I think, particularly with that middle group, I think self-care just falls away for a lot of people. And so that's the other thing that I think I bring to the table that's a little bit different as a physician who's helping as a guide and a coach with the professional development. It's a focus on wellness because it's that, paying attention to movement or exercise and mindfulness and self-care, that is so, so important. And it was a place, again, that I didn't spend enough time for myself, over the years. And a message that I try to bring to the people that I work with or just in general, that you have to pay attention to that whole, you want the growth, you want the development, you want what your future potential, your goals are, but you also have to pay attention to yourself as a person and, holistically take care of yourself, your physical self, your mental self, your emotional self, your spiritual self. And a lot of that can get dropped along the way. People just don't schedule that time in. They don't see themselves as being important enough. The meetings are important. The kid's job is important. The kid's game is important, but not always themselves.
So, Jackie, as a physician and with the experience that you had, breaking your neck and having such an impactful thing happen to your health, right? You help your clients as well with health and making sure that they prioritize themselves spiritually, mentally, physically, as well as professionally. Where do you place a focus on health in the hierarchy of priorities, perhaps, when you're working with clients?
I think that the first place I start is what are someone's goals? What are they looking for? What kind of problems are they trying to solve? And I understand a lot of the problems that they may have. I've had them in my own life. But then it's getting to, so what are you doing for yourself? How are you feeling? Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't do anything else in your life. You're not going to do it very well, right? If you're exhausted, if you're close to burnout, if you're not eating properly, terrible things can happen to you over time with diabetes and heart disease and, all of these things. And so I think that the message that I try to give people is like, yes, let's focus on your roadmap for your vision for yourself and your professional goals and what you want to do. But you also have to focus on your goals from a health and wellness perspective. And so I think that I think is what makes me a little bit different in trying to help people as a guide in what will keep them healthy and well and them to achieve all the things that they want to do, because their cup's going to be full and they're going to have more energy and just feel better if they take good care of themselves. and then they can be much better and more productive in their work life too.
That makes sense. I mean, it all works in synergy together, right? Looking at your priorities and what's holding you back from those priorities. How can we actually solve these challenges? Jackie, when we spoke the other day, you mentioned that you want to do more than just work with people virtually, right? You mentioned brick and mortar healing centers as well. I imagine like just working with people virtually, I know that we're just working with people virtually creates certain challenges and bottlenecks. Also creates specific scaling challenges, especially as an individual coach or consultant at this time, right? But if you're looking at scaling to brick and mortar stores as well, like I'm sure that presents some pretty significant growth challenges. Where do you find the biggest challenges right now as an individual leader approaching a big vision like this?
So I think part of it is having that confidence in yourself to see that things are possible. You can figure out a way to make these things possible. That yes, virtual is pretty easy. It's low cost from a startup perspective, from an operations perspective, it doesn't cost too much. And you can scale up courses. You can have live event or, online events where you can bring people on from all over the world, and it makes it fairly easy to do so. But the limitation there is that I found in my own healing, as an osteopathic physician, I like to do manipulative therapy. I know that hands-on can make a big difference for folks. Movement like yoga, yes, you can do that on a class, but there's nothing better than that connection with other people in a way to support someone's healing process. And so being able to have centers for healing that are trauma-informed, having gone through my physical trauma, trauma is trauma, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, there's a lot of different types. And being able to have a place that is safe, that people could come to have their needs met in a variety of ways through like physical and occupational therapy, manipulative therapy, yoga, behavioral health support, and just some integrative medicine in general, I think is a dream of mine, because as I was going through my own rehabilitation and recovery, I recognized so many limitations in our own healthcare environment, in the system. And I know that there's a better way to do this. And so I think it's just looking for the right opportunity and perhaps someone to collaborate in order to get that first place started and learn what works, and then see where it goes from there. It might take
one foot in front of the other. Fantastic. So if we're looking at those growth goals that you have, right, especially in today's age, one of the most powerful tools that we have accessible to us is AI, of course, and just technology in general to duplicate what it is that we can do with a multiplicative effect. In your previous role, as a previous leadership role in healthcare, I understand you were implementing AI for clinical decision support and care gap analysis and such. But now as an entrepreneur, you're using it more for strategic planning and course development. What's been your biggest challenge in adapting AI tools for your current business versus the corporate environment?
So it's weird, David, because I think I have this like love-hate relationship with AI and technology in general. On one hand, it is so wonderful for anything that's like a repetitive administrative task. You need to summarize information. So for example, there's an app called Open Evidence for physicians and providers. And all you have to do is put in your question, and it just summarizes the data for you in seconds. And it's a game changer, because you don't have to go looking for things in books and going to the library and looking, 700 different studies to get the evidence on something. So having something that can summarize information for you very quickly, do the administrative tasks for me, be able to help take my content and be able to post it, etc. All those things are wonderful, and helps with course, being able to set up the courses, etc. So I think it's an awesome product. And then there's always the concern with me. It's always like with working with your team or employees, trust but validate, right? There are programmed algorithms that are out there. They can have bias because somebody built them. They're getting information from a lot of different places and they're pulling it all together. And so there can be sometimes bias built into the system, and you have to be able to go back and refine it. So I have sort of this love of where this technology can take us and where it can take me. And then also some concern about how do I adopt it in a way that make sure that I'm doing it in a way that's going to best serve myself, my business, and people down the road, if that makes sense. So I think there's a huge opportunity for it. For me, I think being able to reach the populations that I want to, to be able to really refine those demographics, to be able to put the content out there that really resonates with folks so that they're getting their needs met, and being able to track that people's progress over time as they're going through coaching with me or guidance with me so that they're reaching their goals and hitting the roadmap. I think there's a lot of opportunity to leverage that technology. I see people really wanting to adopt it. I know I want to. And it's always just like, okay, how do I do that? I'm an early adopter in so many things in my life. Kind of always been out there grabbing sort of like, oh, let's try this and let's try that. I would say that technology is one of the places where I get a little more cautious, but I'm trying to be an early adopter and really leverage the technology that's out there. AI,
I mean, that's amazing,
I think
right?
it's a game changer.
I couldn't agree more, right? Especially, again, just with being able to do more yourself, right? Using it as that data analyst in your pocket, or the additional team member to help you with a little bit of HR, or, a little bit of planning, whether it's creating documents, slideshows, whatever it is. It sounds like you're using AI for a few different things, content creation being one, planning and creating documents being another. What's the next step for you with AI, knowing that you're an early adopter and you're trying to test new things? What comes next, do you think?
I think it's probably start using it more in a way to help me with marketing and brand awareness, and to get to that level of consistency that I really want to have with the business itself. I know you probably can resonate with this too. So when you're owning your own business, there are just days where you're like, okay, is this really worth it? Do I, so what do I do? Like, what time do I get up? How much so being able to leverage the technology to help me with building my strategy, and then developing that schedule, and then holding me accountable to that schedule, and then using those tools to really reach the population that I want to, and be able to analyze the data to see what's working, what's not, so I can keep making those adjustments, and honing my product, honing my approach, and really fine tuning it to the point where it can really help me to take off. And so I think I've learned a lot. It's only been 18 months that I've been doing all this stuff, so I'm learning a lot. I think there's so much still to learn in this. And, so I'm excited to just kind of see where those tools can take me next.
Absolutely. I mean, you just got to keep testing, keep playing around, and things are going to fall into place. No doubt. Now, Jackie, I've got one more question for you to maybe bring a little bit more insight to the audience. You're looking at other professionals who might be hitting their own glass ceiling situations right now, whether they're people pleasers, perfectionists, or maybe just feeling stuck despite experiencing great success and recognition. What's the one framework or approach you'd share to help them recognize and break through those self-imposed limitations?
So I would say that mindset is so important. So having that growth mindset and trying to stay open and curious. Open and curious about yourself, about your behaviors, your actions, why you do the things that you do. Open and curious to what might be out there as far as possibility, because there's so much opportunity out there if you just stay open, I guess, is like the biggest thing. And just having that continuous learning and growth mindset, and understanding that this is all just a journey. Like, it's not about the destination necessarily, it's about your journey. So continue to evolve, continue to think about reinventing yourself, and just being who you, like bringing your authentic self to the world, and trusting in your inner wisdom that what you bring is, and the truth that you speak is important and needs to be heard, and will take you where you need to go, as long as you're staying open and allowing yourself to grasp those opportunities as they present themselves to you. And the opportunities might be weird opportunities, like breaking my neck, but there's opportunities all the time out there. You just have to stay in that learning mode.
Now, just to clarify, we're not advising anyone to go break their neck looking for an opportunity,
No.
but if
Don't
it so
do that.
happens, there's always opportunity that can be found in times of chaos. Jackie, thank you so much for today. For any of the listeners who might like to reach out to connect with you, or maybe even to work with you, what would be the best way to contact you?
So the best way is to go to my website, DeleaneInstitute.com, and you can reach me through that. I'm on LinkedIn as well, and would love for folks to just kind of reach out and say hello and check out the website, and be happy to chat with anyone who would like to.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And that's a wrap on another episode of The Growth Shift. If this conversation sparked something for you, whether it's a new perspective on failure, a strategy you want to try, or just the reminder that every setback can become a setup for something bigger, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid change. They're the ones who shift strategically through it. If you're ready to build the systems that help you grow without the chaos, head over to valentix.io. We help businesses like yours scale smarter, not harder. I'm David Zylstra, and I'll see you in the next shift.